Well, hey everybody. So, I wanted to get on here and kind of give you guys an insight of who I am, where I come from. Because a lot of y'all don't know. So, backstory um, I was born and raised in Georgia. I'm not going to give you guys my whole life story, I promise. Um, I was born and raised in Georgia. Um, in my head, I thought this was going to be easier, but it's really not. So, um, the year that I was graduating high school, my stepdad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. I was the only child that he got to physically see graduate. Um, I graduated on May 24th, and he died June 24th. I don't hold anything against any of my siblings because they were all very young and prepubescent and adolescent and teenagers. So there's a lot going on at that point. I don't know where the disconnect happened between me and my siblings, mostly my brothers. Me and my sisters still talk, but it's not like it used to be. Um, but I don't know where the disconnect happened between me and my brothers because one minute it was fine, the next minute it was shattered to pieces beyond repair. And from then on, we've had issues. We've never seen eye to eye. We've never been able to be in the same room. It's always been turmoil, in a sense. After dad died, I didn't know how to handle any of that. I didn't know how to handle grief. I didn't know how to handle loss. I didn't. Nobody up until that point of any significance in my life had passed. So I didn't know. So I turned to sex. It made me feel good. It made me forget. Looking back, that was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. Because, oh, it gets better. A year later, I was diagnosed with HIV. Consequences of our actions, I guess. And I remember sitting in the nurse's office on the phone with my mom, because my mom was in school to be a certified nursing assistant at that point. And I'm like, hey mom, I got something to tell you. Are you sitting down? She's like, yeah, what is it? I'm like, test came back positive. And she's like, I'm on my way. I'm like, why you can't fix it? You can't remove it from me. It just is what it is at this point. And the nurse looked at me and she was like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, why? She was like, because you're handling this really well. And I wasn't even 19 I wasn't even 20 at this point. And I looked at her and I said, sweetheart, shit happens and then you die. So that was my early 20s, my late teens, early 20s. Fast forward some years. I really thought this was going to be easier, but apparently it's not. I fell in love, or so I thought. And everything was fine. We got along great. We went through a couple rough patches. Um, but one day, I am. I don't know how the argument started or what it was about. But I remember picking up the truck keys because I was going to go take the trash off. Where we lived at the time, we didn't have trash service. You had to take it to the dump. Um, so I was going to take the trash off, go for a drive, clear my head, just remove myself from the situation because I felt it escalating. Yeah, he wasn't having that. Snatched the keys out of my hand. I had just made it to the sidewalk of the house. Snatched the keys from my hands. Cole caught me in the face. I fell down, and all I remember is my head being bounced off the concrete. That was the beginning of the end for us. Then I met my husband. Mm. Matthew was the brightest person in the entire room. And he did it unknowingly. He was not an intentional individual. He was very caring, very loving, very giving, and super supportive of everything. It didn't matter what it was. You want to move here? Cool, we'll make it work. You want to start up this business? All right, cool. And in the same respect, I was also super supportive of everything he wanted to do. Because that's how it worked. As an individual who has been around mental health and had read and seen and done a dozen things regarding it, from the different books that I've read, the different shows that I've watched, the different people that I've had interactions with. My aunt, who was a licensed therapist and state social worker, and at the time the director of student services, an individual like myself being around enough professionals and having enough knowledge, I still missed all the signs. Every one of them. And I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and they point blank asked me, when are you going to start forgiving yourself? I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying. I'm actively making steps to sit over here and forgive myself. Um, if you don't know, I have published now 5 books. The 5th one is on its way. Um, I've started an entire MLM fantasy series on one side, and I've also started a grief series on another. The grief book is called Surviving the Aftermath. It is a journey, it is a guide, it is what I didn't have at any stage of my life. It's a tool and a reference and a journal for those that didn't, for those to have what I didn't. Because there's nothing like this out there. At the end of each part, there are lined pages to reflect on the previous part. At the end of the book, there's journal prompts, there's talking points, there's whatever And you, as the reader, can utilize those lined pages to start journaling. I couldn't turn it into an entire journal, as well as a self help book, as well as a guide, because it would have been 1,500 pages long. It's already 500 pages. There is so much oblivion surrounding mental health. It's not even funny. And it's so funny. In my mind, it's absolutely hilarious. It's sad, but I also have a twisted sense of humor, so bear with me. You sit over here and you see all of these advertisements and all of these publications about the National Suicide Helpline and 988, and if you or someone that you know is in need, and you see all of the disclaimers at the end of every show that involves suicide about the National Suicide Hotline and the fact that it's a tool and a resource for those of us that feel less than. Did you know that it takes 10 minutes to get through, though? Did you know that there's a wait time for someone who's in the middle of a crisis, who probably already has everything in front of them, and then now they have to wait? No. And I've had so many friends and so many people, Michael, why don't you start a foundation? Michael, why don't you start something? I don't want to run that business. I have my businesses that I run, that I enjoy running. I don't want to run that. I don't want to start that. I've already started that anyway and passed it off, because after Matthew committed suicide, me and a couple other members of his immediate family got together and we built the Star Project. I have since removed myself completely from it. It's not that I didn't want anything to do with it. At that time, when I stepped away, I felt like I wasn't being heard on anything. So instead of continuing to feel like a burden or an annoying little bird in the background, I left. And I'm like, well, shit, if nobody's gonna listen to me, what's the fucking point? So I left. I have played around with the idea of starting a foundation of some sort. I don't know yet. I don't know if I want to center it around suicide or if I want to center it around mental health in general. The more that I think about the idea, the more that I play around with the foundation of it, the more I realize that it is something that is going to require government funding. Because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. Because no one should have to wait 10 minutes to talk to somebody. To me, that's shitty. After Matthew passed away, I stayed in a bottle. 6 months, I was drunk. From sunup to sundown. To the point where I had drank myself sober. And I was just doing it for the taste at that point. Because I continued. There was no lapse. Anytime anybody saw me with a glass or a cup or a Yeti or a Stanley or whatever, there was alcohol in it. It was borderline problem at that point. But nobody could blame me. No one could sit over here and scold me. No one could sit over here and say anything to me because they all understood. At 29, you don't expect to lose your spouse to a gunshot. We were only married for a year. And I miss him daily. Because it wasn't supposed to be like this. This was not how it was supposed to be. And it's been 3 years now, and I still sit over here and I'm like, this is not how my life was supposed to go. This was not the envision that I had for my life. This was not the plan. This was not the future. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. So now I guess I just need to get through it. Grief in and of itself is a journey. It doesn't matter what kind of grief it is. It's not something that's going to go away overnight. Hell, it took me a while, a long while, to process my dad. Um, I was sitting. I had started cosmetology school after high school. I started a lot of things. And I remember I was sitting at my desk in the back of the class because that's where I sat. I've always been that student that sits in the back of the class. Um, and I just sat there and cried. And my teacher came up to me and she was like, "Are you okay?" Like, no, I'm not. I'm here. I'm getting my credit hours, but no, I'm not okay. She was like, "Honey, go to the bathroom, fix your face. Whatever it is will be okay." And after class, I walked up to her and I was like, "It will never be okay." And she looked at me and she was like, "Why?" I was like, "Because I lost my dad." And fast forwarding to this year, this month, this day, well, a couple of days ago, honestly, it finally hit me. It's taken me this long. Dad died whenever I was 19. I am 32. Just to give you a span on time. It has taken me this long to actually be able to finish successfully higher education. Because in 2 weeks, I graduate with my associates in applied science and digital marketing. And mom looked at me and she was like, "You realize how proud of you I am?" And I'm like, "Why? It's just a piece of paper." She was like, "Still, you did it. You put forth the time, you put forth the effort, and you completed it." She was like, "So we need to do." I said, "No, we're not making a big deal about this. It's just an associate's. It's not a big deal. I'm not even going to the graduation walk ceremony because it's all the way in Florida." And I'm like, "There's no point." But I was like, "We'll make a big deal about it when I get my master's. Whenever that is, when I get my master's, we'll make a big deal about it." And now I'm like, why am I gonna wait to make a big deal about anything? Dad deteriorated in front of me in 4 months. Who's to say that my mom will even be here when I get my master's? So now I get to live with more regret? No. No, we're not doing that. So I've come up with a plan. I'm gonna throw my own graduation party. I know that's really shitty, but I'm a slight control freak. I am going to throw my own graduation party. And that's just going to be that. So, hopefully, you guys have a better insight of who I am, why I do what I do. Um, if you have not seen any of my works, check them out. They're in my link tree. My link tree's username is the same as all of my socials. I've made sure that the branding across all of my platforms are the same. It's not hard to find me. If you've got one username, you've got all of them. Um, before I go, I sit over here and I talk about the fact that it's taken me forever to complete my associates, but I can write a book like nobody's business. My books are my healing. They're my therapy. Mm. And I've recently got into um, songwriting and have produced 2 songs. I cannot sing to save my life. Y'all hear this twang? No. However, I found a software that I can use to take the songs that I have written and it applies a physical singer and the music, the acoustics, the instrumentals to my lyrics. It is still my song. I still wrote it. I just didn't sing it because I cannot sing to save Christ. I can write all day long. Cannot sing. I can play the violin. I can play the piano. Cannot sing. Just can't. Um, I am both musically gifted, intellectually gifted, technology gifted. I am aware of the strengths that I have in my life. And I'm a very firm believer if you find something that makes your job easier, work smarter, don't work harder. So, if you also haven't noticed, I do a podcast. It's called The Shit Show, literally. It's called The Shit Show, Mike's Edition. It is on Spotify and wherever else you want to listen to your podcasts. It's distributed through Spotify Podcaster. Um, I've kind of been doing a a monthly catch up on it. I started it hot and heavily whenever I moved from Atlanta to Chicago, kind of giving people an inside look from their ears to what all's been going on in my life. I am switching scenes on that one. And August's podcast will be more like a radio show. Um, and then September's will be um, one of the chapters from Surviving the Aftermath. And I'll kind of do book readings to through the end of the year. So podcast will probably pick up as far as the schedule is concerned, just because I know for a fact August will only have one podcast, but September may have 2. October may have 2. No. September will have 2. October will have 1. November and December will have 1. So September will be the only one that has 2 because I have 5 books. So I have to do a reading for each of them. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that works. So my life has not been easy. I have experienced great loss and great pain in my life. And the older I get, the more it shows. My face is very tired. With that being said, I hope that this gives someone somewhere a sense that if I can do it, so can you. Because there's been plenty of days where I'm just like, what the fuck am I here for? Why am I here? What's the purpose? I'm not seeing the purpose. Because you sit over here and you watch these shows and you're like, oh yeah, that's that person's purpose. Or that person knows their purpose. And then you've got individuals like myself who's just walking around through life aimlessly like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Why am I here? I don't feel like I'm doing anything. So, I am starting to realize that I went through what I went through to be an advocate. Because you can't advocate for something if you've not experienced it yourself. So, cheers. Again, all of my social media, all of my works, whether it be my songs, my shows, my books, all of them are in my link tree in the description below. It's all over social media. Wherever this is uploaded, I'm sure you can find it in my bio. If you cannot find it, just leave a comment down below and I will drop the link. It's not that hard. But seriously, if you've ever experienced great pain and great loss and great sorrow and are going through grief, surviving the aftermath, while it is more along the lines centered around spousal suicide, it is still a resource out there. And there's not anything else out there like it. So, go check it out. And we'll go from there. So, okay, bye.